guys, I'm Anuj. I work at, like Prathama said, I work at Revealing Art Creations. I am primarily a hardware guy, but most of the people in my office work with Ruby, Rails, and it's interesting to see how they can live lives without hardware. So what I decided to do was, one of my colleagues had an idea that we should actually have a dashboard which will help in DevOps, because DevOps is, in my honest opinion, a very repetitive task. I mean, you have to do the same kind of things again and again. So I commit, if the builds pass, great, I deploy. If the builds fail, I do some changes, then I have to deploy again. So what Nishant, my colleague, had an idea was we should have something like this, which makes it fun. Plus, there are some other incentives too. So for example, let's say I start getting errors on my deployed web application, and I'm not at my office, I'm somewhere remote. And what I could do, what I have to do next is I have to roll back to a previous state and push that web application. So what could happen is I could have a simple button do this, right? It's something which is very mechanical. I don't necessarily have to be there. I can get back from my vacation and then look into it. So stuff like this could happen too, but primarily it's for fun. So yeah, so this project is strictly a fun project. If someone's looking to learn something about Ruby or some feature, then this is definitely not that kind of a project. So what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about the Raspberry Pi. Can I see a show of hands of how many of you have heard Raspberry Pi? Almost everyone, right? Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about Pi because that's the brains in this. I'm going to be talking about some of the gems that are there for Raspberry Pi. I'm going to be talking about this dashboard. State machines. State machines is a very used concept in embedded systems. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that and how I've used that in this particular demo. I'm going to be talking about the interfaces that you can see, the buttons, LEDs, display, the fancy looking speedometer. And I'm going to be talking about the stuff that I haven't done, which could probably be done. All right, so probably Pi doesn't need a lot of introduction, but I'll just be brief for the people who don't know much about it. So Pi is a small microprocessor. Actually, it's technically called a single board computer. So it's the size of a credit card, and it runs its operating system on an SD card. It's got 512 megabytes of RAM, and the hard disk, so to speak, is the SD card, and that depends on how much you put in. So it's got two USB ports. It's got an HDMI. It's got an RC output. It's got an audio out. The interesting part is that it has got 21 GPIO pins. GPIO pins are pins which allow me to interface with such sensors and actuators, as we call them. So what happens is I have something which runs Linux, and I have something which also controls an LED. So now basically I can take over the world. So the GPIO pins, the GPIO stands for general purpose input output. So input is for stuff like the switch, output is for stuff like the LED, the LCD, and the servo motor. So that's about the Pi. So Ruby runs quite well on the Raspberry Pi, to be honest. It could be better. The libraries that are there are not that popular, or maybe they are not that much in development. But these two, the Wiring Pi and the PyPiper, are the two most used libraries for the Raspberry Pi. So most of your other libraries will work, other gems will work as is, but these libraries are specifically targeted for Raspberry Pi so that I can access the pins that are there on the Raspberry Pi. So if you are looking for a library to use with the Raspberry Pi, if you are thinking of writing your own, which is actually a great thing to do if you really want to learn how the hardware works, is you have to look at the following 5 things. Whether it has support for GPIO, which most of the libraries have, all the libraries have, support for serial, which some libraries have, support for PWM, and support for SPI and I2C. So these are the things that you have to take care of while writing. because once you have this, you have basically complete control over all the pins that are there on the Raspberry Pi in different forms, not just general purpose input output. So right now on my board, I have a couple of things. I have push buttons, I have LEDs, I have an LCD display, and I have a servo motor which is connected to a needle, and I have attached a speedometer so that I can actually make sense of the readings. All right, now is this visible to everyone, more or less? Or should I change? Fair enough? All right, so usually when you're dealing with embedded Linux boards, you use something known as SSH to connect to it. So for example, since me and the Raspberry Pi are on the same network, I would do something like this, followed by the password. All right, so what I've done is I've divided it into 4 parts. So first I commit a change, then my state goes into building. If the build success, I go into deployment stage. If the build fails, I come back to the commit stage, or I can decide to restart a build. If the build succeeds, like I said, it goes to deployment. If deployment succeeds, I decide to go into monitoring, in which case I can monitor things like the memory usage, I can monitor the CPU usage, or anything else that happens. So what I'm going to do is, in the last step, I'm going to show how I am checking the memory and showing it on the speedometer. So now, all right. So what I've used is something known as the state machine gem. The state machine gem has states, it has transitions, which I can couple with my existing class or have a class of my own. So like I said, I'm in the first stage, which is the waiting stage. I'm waiting for something to happen. So let's say a commit happens. So now the green light lights up, right? So that means I can visually see in what stage I am. Apart from that, I don't think that's visible to all of you, but the LCD also shows, oh, sorry. Yeah. The LCD will also show what the current state is. So based on that, I see that my state, which was in waiting, is now turned to build. So now I'm in the build stage. Now there are 2 things that can happen. So either my build can pass, in which case I'll go to the deployment state. Right, so now my build has passed and I've gone to the deployment state, and as you can see, a new light has lit up. While deploying, I have linked this to my Heroku. Heroku setup here. So now, so this is a Heroku app that I have. I'll make a small change so that we can actually see the deployment happening. I'll get rid of this white space. Right. Let's start this again so that I can show you the actual deployment. So I just did DRC commit, but I didn't actually have a commit in place. That's why I couldn't show you what was actually going to happen. Right. Now I have a commit. Now it will go to green. And now I do a build. Sorry. Yeah, a build pass. So now what's going to happen is I have associated that transition from my build state to my deployed state with a simple command, which is jet push Heroku master. So now it's going to push my app to Heroku. And I'm going to go to the next stage, which is going to be monitoring. There is one more state in which we'll revisit. In that case, if I happen to come across a build fail, I'll start a job at Travis. So how many of you know about Travis? All right, so Travis is a continuous integration system in which it is triggered based on a GitHub push, a GitHub commit. So let's say I push a change and it breaks some things. So in that case, it's supposed to be a build fail, and my commit is supposed to restart. My build is supposed to restart. All right. Okay, so we'll come back here. So now I have successfully transitioned to the deployment stage, and I have pushed to Heroku master. Now what I could do is I could go to monitoring, or I could go to deploy fail. One second. Deploy failed. So in that case, if you notice this, I was here, this LED was blinking, was on, and now there was a failure, so the red LED started turned on. So this can be a very simple indicator for people who are not involved in the development process to understand that there has been some kind of failure. Now if you see, my state went from deployment to build again. Now let's say I do a build fail. Right, okay, there's a small error in that. So in the case of, I'll just show the code that was actually supposed to happen. So in the case of a build failure, I'll do something like this. So this is my Travis code, and it's going to restart my build. So if I come across a build failure, my state is going to go back to build, and it's going to go back to waiting, and I'm going to restart my build. So based on what output I get back, I'll again do this. So if you have been noticing, the LEDs toggle in between green, yellow, and blue if everything is happening successfully. If it's not, then it's going to be turning red. Now there's something else that's interesting that we could do here. I have a mem code. So most of the times I've noticed that while people are deploying, after deployment, what they're monitoring the most is probably the RAM usage, probably the CPU usage, if there are any 404s, something on those lines. So what we could have is something which shows me what the memory status is at any particular moment. I shouldn't have to run htop and then look at the memory usage. So what I could do is, okay, so right. So now if you can see on the screen, the value is supposed to be 18.26. Right, so based on the value, I'm going to calculate what my angle is going to be, and it's going to be coming here. So right now, the values are supposed to be 17% of my memory is used. So that's the value, 17.18. And based on that, I've decided that I should calibrate my servo motor, and now it's showing at 20. If you guys can't see, right? So it's showing almost 21, but there's a slight calibration issue, it seems. So it's supposed to show the memory at whatever memory usage has happened. So these are the interfaces that I've worked on, and this is the state machine. I'll show you the code for the state machine, which is an interesting gem. If you are, it's used in a lot of places. People like Spree, Ember.js, they run their source on state machine gem. So what the so this is the state machine gem that I'm talking about. So in this case, I can define states at which my system can be. So in my case, it was either the commit stage, it was in the waiting stage, the build stage, deployment stage, or I'm in the monitoring stage. And I can, sorry, the commit is not a state. So yeah, so I had 4 states, and my commit, my deployment pass, my deployment fail, my build pass, my build fail, or my transitions. So for each transition, I defined, for each event I defined the transition of my system. So let's say a commit happens, then my state moves from waiting for a commit to start building. Here. Similarly, if a build fails, it goes from build state back to waiting. So this is a very interesting thing, and it's quite widely used from where I come. In embedded systems, most of the systems are designed to be very robust, and that's why they're based off state machines. All right, so I guess I'm in the last couple of minutes, and what I haven't interfaced here is probably something like keys. So another thing that's often used in deployment is the write SSH keys, probably. So let's say I'm authorized to deploy, and someone in my office is not authorized to deploy. So what would happen is I'd probably log in from my account and push a code base to Travis or Heroku or something like that. But what could also happen is I could have a key, and I could use that key and interface it with the Raspberry Pi so that only I can push. Another thing is the buzzer. A buzzer would probably make more sense because it immediately draws attention. Something like the light bulb, the light bulbs in the room. I think it's Heroku or someone like that. Whenever their system is down for maintenance or something, the lights in their office turn red. So that probably has a similar system. Okay, so I'll probably wrap up now. So this entire code is available on GitHub, also the Twitter handle. And we also have a meetup where we routinely build projects like these. So it could be quadcopters or 3D printers or anything to do with the Arduino or something like that. So that's about it in my talk.